Hello everybody, it's Hydra Mike. This is a VBA tutorial. It's a long video again. I know people don't like them, but it's hard to do just part of a tutorial and come back and do it again and remember what you were doing. So this one's mostly based off a couple formulas, and for the most part is running through how to manipulate cells using ActiveCell in VBA. So hope you enjoy. It's kind of long, but it was me working out a problem with my friend, basically. Later. Hello, everybody. I figured I'd do a tutorial on some Excel VBA. Well, Microsoft Office VBA anyway. What VBA is Visual Basic for Applications. It is just a language, programming language of sorts that's built inside of Microsoft Office that I personally hope never goes away. But it's up to date per se, but it's not. I don't think it has been updated since like 2016 is, I think. But as far as anything you possibly could want it to do inside Microsoft Office, it can do. So I figured I would try to solve a problem that my friend was having with one of his forms he was trying to do for work. And basically what he wanted, this is just a mock-up of, for simplicity's sake, of what he wanted in his form. He wanted to be able to put in a start date, and if there was a start date, the end date would automatically change to today's date, and then every day it would count up until it ended. He physically ended, and they were done with it. The days worked would calculate between the start date and the end date of how many days, of course, they worked. The days allowed would be an arbitrary number that his company or he himself has made up, saying something should take this long to do. And then the days behind would calculate based off the days worked, days allowed, how many days ahead or behind they are. So if they finished within 15 days, they were 5 days ahead. If they finished in 21 days, they were 1 day behind. So on and so forth. So there's a few things here. This is going to have to be a formula. This is going to have to be a formula. The rest should be able to do in VBA. So I have a few formulas for this guy here. The difference between a formula and, let's say, VBA, they're pretty similar in a way, but in the formula bar I can just put equals and then my formula, and it'll base everything off in this square. Whatever that formula equals will be displayed. The problem with formulas is that when no matter, like, it could say 20 here because that's what the formula is trying to say, but when I click on it, it'll show the formula. And if you have people that aren't used to Excel and how it works, they can accidentally erase that formula out very easily. So that's one thing to worry about. So equals if. Now if is just a logical operator, right? I'm going to ask if something is true, then give me something. If it's false, then give me something back, right? So I could just simply say, if, I don't know, we're just going to say D2 equals 20, right? And then, as you can see, it's reading out behind there. If blah logical test. My logical test if D2 equals 20. So I'm asking if block D2 equals 20, comma, now my value if it's true. What do I want to say if it's true? Yes. And now if it's false, what do I want it to say? No. Close it out, all done. That didn't work, did it? How about that? There we go. Got my quotations. So, see, like I said, it says yes, right? But when I click on it, this is actually what's in that bar. So if somebody doesn't know, they could start typing here, and it would erase that immediately. But with that said, so if I put 19 in here now, it says no, right? So that's how the if statements work. So what I want to do now, though, is I need to know, right, if days allowed is blank, then I'm not going to know how many days ahead or behind I am, right? So if D2, right, there's something else I need to do inside here, though. There's also a function called IsBlank, right? So that's saying if, right, I got my first question is if, right? Now my second question is blank. So that I'm going to first look to see if something's blank, and then I'm going to see if my if statement's true or false, right? Is how it's going to work. So if D2 is blank, right? What do I want to do if it is blank, right? I want it to show, we'll say it showed a 0. Well, we'll just say 0, right? Now, also, yeah, so if it is blank, the true is 0, right? If it is blank, I want it to show 0. Now, if it's false, meaning that there is something in there, what do I want it to do? Right? I want it to take days allowed, so D2, and minus it off days worked, C2, right? Do I want it? Do I want it to? I guess maybe if I want it. Yeah, let's do it over C2. If C2's blank. If C2's blank, right? So I was going to show 0 because I don't have any days worked. I have a predetermined days allowed it to work whenever we actually start working. But there is no days worked yet, right? Excuse me. So that's the basis of a formula, basically. So now what's next? That takes care of this. Oh, there's one other thing he wanted. He also had a list of days. This was new to me. I had never done this before. A list of days that were holidays, right? So I'm actually going to format these cells to dates. And this is just a simple format. You know, you can have it say today's date and the time up to the second, or I can just have it say 5 Jan or whatever I want it to say. This is D stands for I just want the 1 day. So if it's the first, I don't want it to say 01, it's just going to say 1. But if it's the 10th, it's going to say 10. And then month, I just want it to give me the first 3 letters of the month. And then the year, just the last 2 digits of the year, right? So no matter what I put in here, I could put 2019 May 5th. If I put in the right format, right? That's what I get. That's what it's going to give me. Now I could see it took the 20 off the 2019. Up here it still says right. You know, I can even type it in like that. 6/20/2019. I'm gonna get 20 June 2000. That format. That's all that formatting does. Easy enough, right? Okay. So we're gonna call this over here holidays. Right. These were our days that his company or him or federal holidays or whatever kind of days are, that were days that they have off that he did not want counted in any of the formulas, right? So we're going to format this cell as well to day, month, year, right? So last Monday, well, we're just going to pick some arbitrary. It's June now. We're just going to pick a few dates in June, right, and call them holidays. So we're just going to say June 6/5. Well, make sure it's not a weekend. 6/5 is good. 2019. I'm going to say 6/17. What the hell? That's weird. So I need to go 6 day, month, year. That's weird. Is that not weird? Why won't this give me June? Did I go crazy? Did that say June already? I missed it. Alright, so 6/10/2019. And then we'll say one more 6/28. Okay, so there's my holidays, right? So what he wanted is here, this day's worked column. No matter what the start date was, no matter what the end date was, that basically days worked would not count a weekend or a day that he would put in a list called holidays. So, first things first, there's a function called network days that does not count weekends. That's its job. That's what it doesn't do. So, first things first, equals if, again, it's going to look familiar a little bit, blank. And now what? What's going to be blank? If, I can't remember what I want blank here. I guess start date, A2, possibly. If A2 is blank, I want this to read out 0. Now, I'm throwing in a nested loop here, or nested if, sorry. If again is blank, right, and the other one would be B2, right? And then if that's empty, I want it to be 0. If neither of those are blank, now I want you to look for network days, right? For A2 and B2, A2, B2, and then it's going to be G2 through G4. So G2 through G4, right, is my holidays. And now I have to close them all out. There's that one, there's that one, there's that one, there's that one. Right? So it's showing 0. Why? Because I don't have a start date and I don't have an end date if I've done this correctly. So let's just say I start this at, we're going to say 20 May 2019 for now. What the heck? Can't type today, right? And then let's say it ended. Well, let's just say it hasn't ended yet. We're just going to put today's date at 6/2/2019, right? So now it's saying 10. Why is it saying 10? There's no holiday in there, right? So this should be 10 days of work, not included holidays, right? So if we go to 20 May, 20 May, right? We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright, so I gotta count the day up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's been 10 days. We're currently on a weekend, so it's not counting today or yesterday, right? So that's correct. So now if I say we're just going to go through 11 June, so now it's saying 15. Oh, my picture is kind of in the way here, didn't it? Doesn't really help you out. All right. So 11 June. So we're starting at 20 May. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Now, why is it 17? Okay, I need to remove the two dates. The 5th of June and the 10th of June are holidays. So 17 minus 2 is 15 days worked. So that seems to be working correct. So my overall question is, if A2 or B2 have something in it, I need you to count the network days between those two, and also built into the network days, these right here is holidays. Right? I was confused there. I was like, hey, why is it called holidays? But it's because it's actually called holidays in the formula. You can leave this section out and it, you wouldn't have a holiday list, but to include it, you make a list, and it'll also treat those days as days that you didn't work. So first question, if A2 or B2 is not blank, count the network days or weekend days between those, plus the holidays that fall on this list, and then give me every day left over. I know that doesn't make much sense, but if A2 is blank, give me 0. If B2 is blank, give me 0. If neither of them blank, give me the network days in the holiday list. It's really what it says. Not the easiest formula to follow, but it's pretty easy. Or not pretty easy. It's confusing. At first, I started this with putting network days at the front. We couldn't get it to work. We did the ifs before and then the network days at the end. So basically, we're making sure that everything's not blank before we do the network days. So the next thing was, I told them that if you highlight these, right, and then up here in the top right corner, you can make a list. I'm going to call it holidays, right? Oops. right? So now this list is called holidays, right? But this is a static list now. So if I add another date here, it doesn't get added to the list of holidays, right? So I told him, if you make this, I make it a list and then make it a dynamic list, then right here, instead of, because the way he had it, if he put another date here, he would have to go back into here and adjust this holiday to G5 now. If he had another one, he had to adjust this to a G6. So all of his holiday dates stayed included in his formula. So to make this a dynamic list, right, I could even right now I could change the formula, right? Now we'll show you this. We'll change this. Instead of G2 through G4, I'm just going to write holidays, because see, now it shows up here. Oh, you already have a name list called holidays. Is that what you want to use? Absolutely, that's what I want to use. So let's say I throw in another date that's in between there. We'll say 30 May. Nothing happened, right? Why? Because this is still only holidays. This is not included. In order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click anywhere inside here. I'm going to go to Insert. Insert it as a table. Yes, it has headings. Or sorry, my header does have a header. I don't want it to create its own header. If I did that, it would make another header above this and call it column 1. But I already have a header. It's called holidays, so keep it. And then I want it to go through G1 through G4. There we go. So now that's a table technically. But since this was already a name list right here included inside my table, now when I add 30 May 2019, it automatically gets absorbed into the table, therefore into my name list, and therefore counted inside my formula now. So now anytime he adds a date to this, it will stay dynamic and all his formulas will update accordingly. So there, we tackled that one, right? So far we've solved this. If C2 is blank, obviously I don't know how many days I'm ahead or behind, so show blank, right? This is just an arbitrary number that someone somewhere has made up. This is going to count how many days worked as long as I have a start date and an end date. And it's going to remove any date I have inside my holiday list and any date that's a weekend, right? So the next step was, if there's a start date, automatically give me an end date, right? So start date, it's obviously, it can be just you can just type it in, right? So the start date's always going to be a manual date you put in. Now I could make it so you click on it and it automatically makes it today's date. I don't necessarily know if that is a necessity or not, but easily done. So the next part was, if this has one, how does this going to automatically know to update to today's date? And then he wants it so every day it will keep, if it was set to today, the 2nd of June, if he opened it up tomorrow, it would say the 3rd of June. And the day after that, it would say the 4th of June automatically. So if I did that, then how do I get it to stop? Right? So this is where VBA would come in at. And how would you get VBA to work in this type of scenario? Every time you click anywhere on an Excel document, it's called a selection change. Of course, I'm changing the cell. I'm selecting a different cell, and my selection is changing. I can capture that in VBA and run some code every time I check. And you'll be amazed how fast that code gets checked. So go to Developer, Visual Basic, right? Here is what it looked like when I got done, right? We're going to try to simplify this a little bit for the sake of this video, but let me close this out. And I'm going to close his actually too, because I don't need it open. Don't save. That was the actual form you saw there. Okay. So, VBA. This, we're going to shrink it down here. This is VBA, not very classy, right? Over here, I can create what is gives me a basic. This is my project manager. I can create what are called macros, and they are just codes that change. So I'm going to go inside this sheet, right? This worksheet, and automatically the first one it tells me, it lets me, I can choose different ones here. These are all different things. I can try to run code every time something in this list happens, but I want selection change, right? So what's the first thing we want to do? Basically, I want to put, if I select this cell, because let's say I put in a date, right? Boop, 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 I put in the date, I'm going to hit tab normally, right? And when I hit tab over to this cell, I want it to go, okay, selection changed to B2. Now I want something else to happen, right? So I'm going to put, I got to first figure out, okay, how am I going to know that I went to B2? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to say if, again, if active cell dot column equals 2. Now let me put the end if here before I forget it, because I will always forget it. It's the bane of my existence, right? So all I'm asking here is if you're doing an active cell dot, when you are like, this is column B, right? But in code it's column 2. A is 1, B is 2. Pretty simple, right? So I'm just saying if active, jeez, I'm tired. If active cell dot column equals 2, then what, right? So now I've captured, it's in this column. Now what? Okay. If active cell dot row is greater than 2, then, right, I'm going to put my end if here so I don't forget it. Right, so now what am I saying? If it's in column 2, and if the row is greater than 2, meaning here or lower, now what? I want it to I'm just going to say, this is, as I said, simple version of what I had prior. I'm just going to say active cell dot value equals today. Now why does it look funny? So basically what I'm doing, I'm not telling it that I wanted to put this right here is a formula. So basically I'm just pasting a formula into this, so then the formula is there, right? Oops. It just ran because I selected a different. Cool, huh? Right? So I'm going to paste, if it's column 2, row greater than, not greater than 2, greater than 1. greater than 1. So if it's column 2 greater than row 2, or sorry, greater than row 1, paste in the cell today's date. So let's see that happen. I click here. Oh, today's date, today's date, today's date, today's date. Nothing, 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 nothing. Today's date, today's date, today's date, right? So my goal, that was first step, right? So I put in today's date, I hit tab over. There we go. We automatically got today's date put in the list, correct? Okay. So now, right? Days worked is 9, days allowed is 20, days behind or ahead 11, right? I could put like a conditional formatting in here to say if it's ahead, if it's a positive number, then make it green. If it's a negative number, meaning I'm behind that many days, make it red. We're gonna stay away from that for now. This whole thing was how to figure out how to do simple things in VBA. And ActiveCell is a very easy way to do it, right? So now what if, okay, so now how do I make it stop now? Oh, there's one thing you also, like, if I click here, right, it puts today's date in here, but I click it again and nothing happens, right? VBA is, once I click it once, it's static. I gotta click away, then click back again for it to actually run the selection change again, right? Because it only happens when I select a new cell. So what I always do after this too is I would do let's make a couple variables. A variable, just think of a variable as a box, a container. I'm going to say I want this to equal something, and if I ever say this something is what I want you to say. So I could say R equals Mike, right? And if I put down here, instead of this equals today, and I just put R, I think you could probably figure it out. Now when I click in this cell, it's just going to say Mike. Yeah, I know I said it equals R, but up here I said R equals Mike, right? So bing, ding, 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 ding. And that's how variables work. Pretty simple, right? So I'm going to say the R equals ActiveCell dot row, right? So that's going to give me the number of whatever of these cells I click on. If I click here, R just equaled 10 when that code ran, right? Because it's the number 10. And I could go as far as saying that C equals ActiveCell dot column, right? So since Excel works with I have to select away, then select back to have the code, so I'm going to automatically have it, once I select in column B, it's going to select away to column F. That way, if someone clicks on it and it clicks on it again, it actually registers a selection change again instead of nothing happening because he was still in the same cell. So what I like to do is like shrink, make one really small column, and then I would say I'm gonna explicitly say active workbook dot worksheets, right? And this one is called sheet 1 because I haven't named it anything. dot cell and then you would put basically the cells asked for a row and a column, right? So the row is going to be the current row. The column's not going to be current column though. It's going to be my column plus 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm literally just going to say plus 4 dot select. What did I miss? What did I miss? Oh. There we go. So what I'm saying here, active workbook worksheets. That's just saying, okay, this Excel workbook, it's the active one, it's the one I'm using. If I had multiple open, it would be the one that, you know, is actually selected. And then worksheets, sheet 1, right? If I had changed the name down here on this tab, that my picture's in front of again. Oops. Okay. Stop. Thanks for pointing out an error though. Forgot my equal sign. Okay. See this how it says sheet 1 down here? If I change the name of it, that would be right here in VBA. Instead of sheet 1, it would be status sheet or main or whatever I named it to. So I'm just saying active workbook worksheet sheet 1, and then cell R, which R is my active row, so whichever row I've clicked into, and then C is my active column I just clicked into, plus 4 select. And this is only going to happen as long as I've selected in the second column greater than the first row, right? So if I click here, nothing happens. I click here, I get today's date, and then this is now selected over here. All right? Good to go, right? I select, it selects away. So as long as I don't click too fast, I can click fast and kind of not screw it up, but get undesirable results. So now what? So now I have it. So if I put in a date, I tab over into the end date, it'll automatically give me today's date, and then everything counting as normal. Tomorrow, this will update, or this will say 3 June, and then 4th June, 5 June, 4th June, right? So now how do I make it stop? Well, first things first, I want to try something here. I want to know that I've clicked in there, right? Oops. So before that, selection of a new cell, I want to colorize it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say with selection, right? I'm going to put my end with so I don't forget it. What this means is, all right, so I'll click on cell B2, correct? I'll click here. That is going to be my current selection because this is going to happen before I select away, right? So I don't have to do anything special. I can say with this selection, what do I want to do? I actually can say, I'm going to say dot interior dot color equals, and I'm just going to say VB green. That's just a built-in color in VBA, right? And I'm going to say dot font dot color. I don't know if it's VB white. We'll see. We'll see if that works. So now when I click in there, hopefully it'll show today's date. The cell will be green, the text will be white. And that's a very bright green, but yes, it worked. Whew. Let's change this VB green. We're just gonna go, instead of VB green, we're gonna say RGB. RGB is just red, green, blue. And it has a 256 colors you can change. Like the red will have 256 shades of red, 256 shades of green, and 256 shades of blue. That's how standard colors work as far as computers are concerned. So to make it green, I can put 0, right? No red. Oops. No red. Green. Give me all. I say 255. I know I said 256, but 0 is a color or a number. All the counting starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, so 255, right? This would be a very, just like this green, bright green. So I'm just going to lower it down to like 150. Let's see what happens. That's better, right? So now we have it. I put in my start date. I tab over. It would give me my end date and then select away. And everything's calculating just to make sure it's calculating right. We're going to take design mode. I'm going to delete this out. I'm going to say no fill. And then my text is automatic, right? This will show that it's going right. So I'm going to say 25 May this time. 2019, I tab over. Oops, still in design mode. I'm sorry. Alright, so 25 May, I tab over. I get today's date. How many days worked? Minus the holidays and weekends. The days allowed is 20. And days ahead or behind that I am. So maybe I'll do that conditional formatting. Right. First off, I'm going to make all of these centered because it's driving me crazy. So conditional formatting is basically you can format a cell. So if something gets put into that cell, it'll change a color basically, or another formula can run. There's all kinds of things you can do. But conditional formatting is right here. We're just going to do it with this one block here. Conditional formatting, a new rule, right? So here's what we can base it off of. Format a cell based on their value. Format a cell that contains something. Top or bottom ranked values. Right, so if we can format a cell that is greater than, right? Cell greater than 0, we're going to make it the screen is better. Font, the color, white. Right? Okay. So there. Now, go back into conditional formatting. New rule. If it is less than 0, we're going to just fill it red. The font's already going to be white, so I don't need to. Well, take that back. Font white. Right? So, if I make this, just say is 1 Feb 2019, we're at negative 65 days in the hole right now. And that's how conditional formattings work. So we're all good, right? Got a start date, an automatic end date. Days worked counting in conjunction with the end dates. Days allowed is working in conjunction with days ahead and behind. So far, so good, right? Alright, so next, how do I get this? Okay, now I'm done. We finished the job. I got this automatically counting up now. How do I get it to stop? Like, I want it to stop now. So, there's a few things I can do. In the code, it says equals today's date, right? Can't really capture that per se. I mean, I can make a variable that holds today's date, basically, and if it equals that when I click it, we'll try that first, right? So, first things first, we're gonna say end date equals. Actually, this is a good way to show you this. If I put dim end date as date, that's just telling this script before it starts that end date is always going to be a date. And if it's not a date, give me an error so I know that I've pretty much fudged up somewhere. What I'm going to say is end date, right? Oops, Jesus. Equals, and I'm going to say format. What am I going to format? Today's date. How do I want to format it? You guessed it. Month, year. Right? So that's end date. That's just a variable. It's nothing, right? End date is just, I'm saying in code, if I put end date, it's going to equal today's date. That's all it is. It's not going to do anything out here. It's only used in the code. So, up here, where I said ActiveCell value equals today's date, I'm going to put I'm going to assume we're starting from a blank cell, correct? So I'm going to put if active cell equals, or I'm going to say does not, that open closed greater than less than is does not equal to. So if I say does not equal to end date, then do this, right? Else just means okay. It doesn't equal to okay. If it doesn't equal to that, else just means if it does equal that, then what do I want it to do? I want it to active cell dot value equals end date, right? So basically what I've done, if it already has today's end date in it, when I click it again, up here it's not going to look any different. Nothing's going to change, but instead of pasting the formula equal today, open and close parentheses, which is the formula for giving you today's date, it's just going to literally put in today's date, and that's going to turn it static. Oops, I don't want this here. My bad. Almost screwed up. Cut. I want this width to be in there as well. Right? Because right now this equals what? Let's see what happens. I need to put an end if in here. That's what I need to do. Let's see what happens when I do this. What happens now? What does that say? Oops. See, it says today's date, right? What does it say now? Equals today, open close parentheses, right? If I click on it now, what does it say? The actual date, right? So I turn it from a dynamic counting of the days, today, it'll show today, then it'll show tomorrow, to a static of just today, right? I want to delete that out. Delete. I want to no fill, right? Okay. I also want the color to change, right? I don't want it to be green, however. I want it to be red. So we're going to try 150 in red too, see what happens. Right? So, today's date. Still desired view. Alright. Start date. There's my end date. Let's just say it ended today. Click. So now there's a visual indication that okay, it's no longer a dynamic changing date. It's now a static. That's when we stopped. Okay, it's not going to go any further anymore, right? And now he has an accurate description of, okay, we started on this day. This started counting as soon as we started. And now today's we're done. I clicked it. Red means we're done. It stopped. It's not going to count anymore. Here's how we did, basically, right? That's pretty much it, though, isn't it? Isn't that what I said we had to do? Oh, the other thing was, okay, what if we were working and we were working on another one and I accidentally, like we're working for these, whatever they are, whatever they're doing, you know, whatever the description of what they're actually counting days on over here. If we're working on multiple and I meant to click this one, but I clicked this one instead and I stopped it. How can we get it back? Right? So, over here, back in VBA, if I don't put, instead of else, we're going to put else if. Yeah, I know. I know. Right? So this should do the same thing. Let's just double check, make sure I didn't make any mistake. Right. There we go. Same thing, but now what I want to do is if it's already red, like how do I capture it again? I'm going to say again else if ActiveCell dot what? interior dot color, right? I can do this because I'm specifically giving it a color, equals RGB 150.00. There's a ton of different ways to do this, but this is just how I'm choosing. Then, right, then what? I could just say then ActiveCell equals this again. Right? I could. I'm going to tell you why this is a bad idea in a second. But so now, in theory, oops, where? Oh. So now, in theory, I guess we can do my step through, because why is this not finding this? Alright, so this is called stepping through. I can hit F8 and walk myself through it to see why it's not working, right? So does it equal end date? Here, it doesn't equal, it does equal end date, right? So there's my problem. It does equal end date, so that's why it doesn't ever get into this one. Right? So here's what I can do. Instead of this last else if I did, I can stick it inside this one. Right? But this is I don't want to do that. Why? Because end date right now is today's date. That's convenient. What if it was tomorrow that I realized that I wanted it to restart back up? It's not going to work. So, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do if ActiveCell dot color dot interior doesn't equal, oh, that's why, interior dot color does not equal RGB 150.00, then, right, then I want you to do this. Well, that's not going to work either, because I said right here, we'll roll with it for now. Like I said, this is conveniently going to work because today is actually the end date. But if the end date wasn't today, we'd have issues. So I'm saying here, if it doesn't equal red, make it red. Else, if we're going to say if it does equal red though, then do this. Right? So let's step through this here. Oops, I'm missing. I got this one. I don't have this one anymore. Let's step through this now. All right. Oh. Right, here we go. Let's step through this. Does it equal today's date? Basically, yes. Yes, it does. Does it not equal red? No, it does equal red. Else if it does equal red, then it equals today's date. Everything becomes green. Right? So, if it's green, it turns it turns red. If it's already red, it turns back to dynamic again. Just to double check. See, it's not working properly. It's still saying it equals today's date no matter what. Why? Let's see why. It does equal red. Turn it green equals today. Fair enough. Right? So now, why? Because it does equal today's date. Where I had it changing it to end date. Did I erase it on accident? I must have. Because it should have been right here. ActiveCell.value equals end date. Right. So now this should actually equal today's date, right? So I select it. It does equal today's date. And it goes back to being today. Right, so now what if, well actually we'll change it again. Play. Design mode. Right, so it's going to turn it red. Let's go into design mode now and change this to not being today. So now what happens? It doesn't equal today's date or end date. So now it's going to go into the formula to equal today. I guess that works. Is that not what I wanted to do? I think it pretty much is. So take this off. So no matter what, it will swap between a static date or a dynamic date. Now, the next problem. This is working right. I'm actually doing it different than I did before. Doing pretty much the same with less code. But, so, right here you can tell it equals today's date. Right, if I hold it, you can see what the formula is up there. Now it's a static date. Back to a dynamic date. Static date. Right? What if, let's say this one had ended like a week ago. Right? Let's say it looked like this, but the date was a week ago. I'm fiddling around and I click it on accident. Fudge, right? That's fucked up. So I want to say if it equals, down here we're going to say, instead of automatically changing it, right? I'm going to just say, I'm going to call it question. I'm going to ask the user a question. And how am I going to do that is with an input box. And question equals input box. Do you want to make this a dynamic date? I don't need a title, right? So I want to ask the question, if it's red and they click on it, did they actually want to change it back to a dynamic date, right? And I'm going to say if question, right? Because question is now going to equal whatever they click, yes or no on the input box. Now, yes is 6, I believe. If question equals 6, then I want you to do this. Right, so now, do you want to make this a dynamic date? Oh, I don't need that. What am I doing? That is not what I want. I do now want input box. I'm going to say message box. And I want it to be VBA yes, no. Right, so now it's going to ask me a question. Do you want to make this a dynamic date? If I say yes, which yes is 6. Whatever reason, yes is 6. I guess that's just how they label their buttons through all their menus in Excel. If I say yes, it'll make a dynamic date. However, if I hit no, it doesn't do anything. Leaves it the way it was. Yes. No. No. Right? So this way, if they didn't actually want to restart it, there's a way out. And that's pretty much it, right? It wasn't too bad. That was a lot better than I did the first time. The first time had, well, there's a few other columns to have to deal with as well. if I, oh, wait a minute. There was one other thing. If I have no start date, right? Days work, days allowed, and days behind all work fine. But this end date, all right, if there's no start date, I want the end date to clear out as well. So there's one other thing we can put in here. Right, so we are going to do it all at the top. If yeah, we'll tab all of this in. Right? And then I'm going to put this here. If active workbook dot worksheets sheet 1 with parentheses or quotation marks, please, dot cells, right, that row, this column, but -1 because I want to know what's in the A column. Dot value equals, or how about we say does not equal, double quotation marks is 0, then do all this that I want you to, right? And then I'm going to put the end if here so I don't forget it. Else, what do I want to do? Else. So else would be, in this case, I'm asking if it doesn't equal nothing to do this. But else would be if it does equal nothing, what I want you to do. Active workbook dot worksheets sheet 1. I know I don't have to say active workbook worksheets every time. I can just say this workbook, or I always explicitly say, because I'm using multiple sheets. And if I say active workbook worksheets, I don't have to select the worksheet, get what I want from it, then reselect another worksheet. I just explicitly say I want this worksheet. It's longer to write out, but it saves me time in the end. I want RC, right? Because now I want the actual one that I'm on. Dot value. I don't have to put dot value either. It's an automatic thing if you don't put anything. I could have left dot value off and it'd work. Equals 0, 0. So that's just saying it's going to go into column 2 and 3, and if A is empty, B is now going to be empty. No, it's not. Why? What did I miss? Active word. Oh, forgot the word book. That's what I forgot. Play. No, that's not it. Active workbook dot worksheets cells. See if that works. Ah, but we also got this colorization stuff going on, right? So it worked. It got rid of everything in there, right? But we gotta make sure it gets with selection. I'm just gonna say dot interior up here that way I just have to say dot color here instead of dot interior dot color. And I'm going to just say, I don't want VB, color index equals 0. That's how to get no color in there. But if I put color VB white, you wouldn't be able to see the lines around the cell anymore. So it just would look weird, right? There we go. So if there's no date, okay, that's interesting. Oh, that is very interesting. F8. So it's in column 2, yes. It's greater than row 1, yes. If it doesn't equal that, then it just makes sure this cell's empty and makes it white, and it's game over. It doesn't reselect over here, but let's take this back out. I put in 19 May 2019, tab over, automatic start date, days work starts, days allowed starts, days ahead starts. I click it once. I now get a static date. Okay, it ended. Click it again. Hey, did you mean to click it again? Do you want to make this back to a dynamic date? I could have made that a little more descriptive of what I wanted to say, but for the purpose of this, do I want to make it back a dynamic date? Yeah, I do. So now it equals today again, and it will count every day. I click it again, it'll go red. Click it again. No, I actually meant to keep it that way. It stays. I delete out my start date. I didn't delete out my start date. I delete my start date. Tab over. End days. Goes away. Now days behind. Let's just say if there's no start date. If there's no start date, then days work behind is also 0. That looks better, right? Because there's no start and end date. Yeah, we're 20 days ahead, but we're not because we haven't even started it yet. So there. That should work, right? My picture's kind of in the way of the code I've been writing the whole time, hasn't it? I guess I can make it big here so we can see, kind of walk through it. Alright, so here I'm just declaring end date as a date. And just now Excel will know if I type in end date anywhere in this code, it's going to consider it a date, and that's how it needs to be particularly formatted, right? And now here I'm just saying, okay, end date, we know it equals a date, but I want you to format it for today's date in date, month, year. That's how I want it to be formatted. That way, I can use it to be put into the cell, and it'll be automatically formatted properly, even though I wouldn't have to technically, because I formatted the cells to format any date into that format. But just in case I hadn't formatted the cells that way, it would pop out from the code that way as well. Okay. So R and C here, these are just variables. Excuse me. R equals ActiveCell.row. That just means whatever cell I click in, it's going to give me that row number. And C equals ActiveCell.column. It's going to give me that column number of whatever cell I select, right? And in the first 2 lines of code, it's going to say if the active cell is in column 2, which is B, right? In the code, it counts columns from left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So column 2 is B. If it is in column B, if it's in the active, or if the row is greater than 1, why greater than 1? Because row 1 is my header, right? If it's in column 2 below row 1, so row 2 or greater. Then I want to active worksheets, sheet 1. I want you to check to see if my start date, if there is a start date in the column A. If there's not a start date, then I just want you to make sure the cell that I'm currently in is clear and there's no color or nothing inside there. Fair enough, right? However, if it does have something in there, which granted this also means you could put a word in there and it would still, this code would run. I should put, if there's a date, like a date format in there of some sort, but for now this is good, right? So let's say there is something in column A. Okay, cool. Does the cell I clicked in column B equal or not equal end date? If it does not equal end date, I want you to turn it into, I want you to put the formula equals today, open close parentheses, in that cell. And that formula just gives me a dynamic day counter, right? It'll slap today's date, and when you open this up tomorrow, it'll say tomorrow's date. And you open up the next day, it'll show the next day. It just keeps counting, right? Dynamically. And then I also want you to turn the interior color a type of green and the font color white, right? However, if it does equal end date, then I want the interior color to be red. Well, I guess I kind of didn't have to. Oh, sorry. If it does equal end date, right? And if the interior color is not red already, I want you to make it red with the font color white and make the cell's value end date. End date is just a static today's date. That's what end date is. However, if it is not red, or sorry, if it is red already, is what this is asking, I want you to pop up, quote unquote, a question. And I do that with a message box. Do you want to make this a dynamic value? And the type of buttons I want on that message box is just yes or no. If question, right? Question is equal to this. So if they say yes, that pops out a 6. And if it's no, it's 7. Why? That's just the way it is. If question equals 6, meaning he wants to turn it back dynamic, make the active cell's value equal, or the formula equals today, open close parentheses, change it to green with white lettering again. And if you hit no, I didn't have to explicitly say what happens with no. It just doesn't do anything. It just leaves it the way it is. And then when all that's said and done, I would like you to select away from that cell to the 4th column over, out of the way. And that's it, right? So, start date, 15 May 2019. Give me my my end date automatically just by tabbing over to it. My days worked is counting every weekday and minusing off every day I have in my holiday list. Days allowed is an arbitrary number that someone has made up. Days ahead or behind is counting the days difference between days allowed and days worked. And that's it. There's one other thing to go over. If I was to drag this down, right? If I drag this down 1, what happens? This now looks for A3, D3, C3, right? Oops. right? So it just transfers the code down. Right? So I don't have to type it in again. I can just drag these down like this. Bloop. The conditional formatting is not going to be there. Well, maybe it does. I don't know. Days allowed, right? We'll just drag this down too. It's going to count them, right? Here it's going to ask me if I want to fill series. Sure. There, to actually count them up like that. I just want you to copy cells. Days worked, right? Should we do the same, right? Drag down, right? A4, 5. Right? End date. Right, so nothing's happening, right? But it does here. What if I put a start date in, right? Because that's what it was waiting on, right? Is there a start date or is there not a start date? And that's when the code will run. So we'll say 20 May 2019. Bam, right? 1 June 2019. Bam. Um 1 Feb 2019, and so on and so forth. There is actually one other thing to do. Let's say now that I look at this, maybe it was busy, or you've been gone, you've been sick, and this day actually, like now I just said it ended on today's date. What if it actually ended a week ago? How do I get that back to a week ago? Is the next thing I could do, right? Because right now I can just turn it back to a start date, a dynamic or a static date. How do I, and I'm asking that question here, right? I can say, what if I say no here, right? I think no is 7. If question equals 7, then, oh, sorry, else if, what do I want to happen? I'm going to say question 2 equals my input box. Do you want to change end date? Right? And I think again it's still 6. If question 2 equals 6, then I'm gonna say ActiveCell value equals, oh shoot, that's not, I can't do that. I shouldn't be asking a question here. It should be could be another message box. Maybe I'll just put 2 message boxes, right? Message box. Do you want to change the end date? If question is 6, yes, then this equals. If it's yes, let me put this here because I'm doing another if statement again. Now it's going to be input box. Question 3. Please enter new end date. Right? And then question 3 should equal whatever I put in there, right? So I would say active cell dot value equals question 3. I think. Let's see. Do you want to make a dynamic? Do you want to make this dynamic date? No. Do you want to change the end date? Well, that didn't work. Oops. This needs to be VB no. VB yes. No. Right, and we're going to tab this in. If, oh, wait a minute. I think. Okay. Shit. If oh, that's why. Jeez. VB yes, no. That should be right. Maybe. Do you want to make the dynamic date? No. Do you want to change the end date? Yes. Please enter new end date 1 June 2019. Ah, there was a problem. Did you see that? No. End date. Yes, we're going to say 1 March 2019. It just automatically right there because it didn't equal today's date. I now have an issue, right? So, golly, why do I keep minimizing these? If it doesn't equal today's date, then it automatically restarts it again. I should have that same question up top here about do you want to make it a dynamic date again, is what I would do. What? What? Right. Do you want to make it a dynamic date? Yes. Right. No. 1 March 2019. And so just like I did before, at the spot where it says does or doesn't equal end date, if it doesn't equal end date, it should be the same pop-up when I click here saying, did you want to make this a dynamic date or no? Yes or no? Yes. And then, here we go. The same thing I already did, so I'm not going to do it over again. This video is already an hour and 35 minutes long. But that's it. I mean, that was a pretty good snippet of VBA. Like, if I show you right here, from here down is how I did it when I was actually working on it with my friend. There's a little more into it, but it's pretty much the same exact operation I did with his in way less code. So even just doing it one more time free-handed, I've shrunk it down a ton more than I did when I first did it. So I like it. But that's it. Oh, also in his code, he had like the row above, or not his code, but on his sheet he had like a location up here, right? And then the next section would have a location as well. So I had a button here which made my code a little bit longer. That would, if I hit add new, it would automatically format this first row of stuff at whatever cell he had highlighted. But that's for another day. But that's kind of cool, right? I'm going to try to edit this and shorten it out a little bit. But no, I won't. Screws it. Later.